2025 starts this week. We have nothing but major highlights to talk about this week because this week we have Venus making a trine to Uranus to start it off. We will have Mercury as its retrograde going opposite Jupiter. We will then have the Sun making a square to Saturn. We will then have the Mercury retrograde cazimi, which is the halfway point of the Mercury retrograde. We'll have Mercury then make a square to Saturn. We'll have Mars stationing retrograde. We'll have Venus entering Aquarius. We will have Venus conjoining Pluto. And then the Sun will go opposite Jupiter this week. And in my opinion, this is the week that sets us up for 2025. So let's go ahead and get started talking about this. Welcome back to the Astrology Report, this time for December 2nd through December 8th of 2024. My name is Cam White, and I'm a professional astrologer, and my job is to let you guys know what is going on in the universe and how to best handle it. And thank you for joining us on this very special report. And the reason I'm using that word priority report, is because, in my opinion, I'm not like the type of person that's always like, oh, this week can change your life or blah, 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 blah. Sometimes I make a little bit of clickbaity thumbnails, but that's just the nature of the game. You know, can't hate the player, hate the game on that one. But here's the deal. I have been saying for months now that everything changes in 2025 and that, you know, now that Pluto's into Aquarius, the dominoes have started. This Mars retrograde adds on top of it. And this Mars retrograde is the thing that is making this year, or I should say the beginning of this year, not feel like the beginning of this year. We have to go through this Mars retrograde first, and then things really pick off, and then things really take off. And so let me explain what that's all about, and let's go ahead and get started talking about it. So we start Monday off with our first highlight, and that's Venus making a trine to Uranus. This is the first thing that we have during the day. And then throughout the rest of the day, the moon is going to be still in Sagittarius. It's going to make a square to Neptune, and then it's going to ingress into Capricorn. So I love Venus trining Uranus. Typically, you know, Venus does rule things like fashion. So Venus trining Uranus could be good for, again, like trying on a new outfit, trying on a new style, stuff like that. However, I also like it for things like business. You know, when it comes to Venus being about pleasure, fun, connection, value, she's in Capricorn. There's like a traditional conservative way that she likes doing it. It's very business class. It's very formal. It just reminds me of like, how can you look good and work at the office, right? Like there's a difference between when like a man wears just like whatever suit that he could find versus like a tailored suit. There's something way more Venusian to that. And I look at Venus in Capricorn as like that idea, like a tailor-made specific suit for something. Venus making a trine to Uranus is trying something new, trying something innovative, trying something a little, you know, not as exactly the way that you might think it would be traditionally. And so I like this for trying new things and having a new way of finding creativity and finding value, because Venus is about what we value. And Venus trining Uranus is like, you know what? Let me create some value this way. Let me create some value that way. Let me try a new, you know, food. Let me try a new you know, purchasing some sort of a new product, whatever it is. There's something about trying something new that's valuable or that's like good or Venusian related. On Monday, we have the moon in Sagittarius making a square to Neptune. As we're getting off of this new moon in Sagittarius and we're moving forward with things, and a lot of this week is about really actually moving backward, but in a good way, like in a way that you need it. As the moon is in Sagittarius squaring Neptune, there's going to be this overwhelming feeling. And when I mean overwhelming, I mean like, you know, when you come up with a new idea or a new plan or whatever it is, and it's like there's all these possibilities and all these different areas to go, and all of it's really good and exciting, but it is overwhelming. That's the feeling on Monday. It's like there's all of these different things going on. There's all these different directions you could choose, and they're all great, but it's overwhelming. You're not really sure which way to go first. That is how we start Monday. As we get later on into Monday and that feeling passes, the moon is going to ingress into Capricorn, where it's just about getting down to business and just making, again, decisions based off of what's going to be, you know, whether that's what's the easiest, what's the thing that makes the most sense, what are we most confident about. What my advice would be, though, for the moon in Sagittarius squaring Neptune is like, I feel like you could be overwhelmed or you could be excited. For example, there's the people that go to Disneyland and get overwhelmed with all the options and where to go first. And then there's the real Disney nerds that are like, we're going to go to Disneyland, we're going to go here first, and then we're going to go here first, and then we're going to go here first. There's a certain, like, depends on what kind of person you are. Be a Disney adult, I think, on Monday when it comes to the excitement and options that you have. And what I mean by that is know your environment, know where you're going, have a plan for it, and be excited about it, but you don't need to be overwhelmed by the chaos. Thrive in the chaos, live in the chaos. Just know exactly what it is that you want and go for it. We get to Tuesday. Tuesday is genuinely the most boring day this week. After Tuesday, everything gets a little bit crazy. And on Tuesday, it's just the moon in Capricorn, sextiling Saturn and Pisces. It's just getting it done. What I like about this, though, is the moon. This is what I said last week. You don't have to believe you're worthy of anything or that you can in order to get it. You just have to do the steps that it takes. It has nothing to do with your belief. It has nothing to do with the value that you think you're worth. You just have to take the steps, and everyone can take the steps and, again, do it. Now, why do I say that? The moon is in Capricorn, where there's a little bit of being detached from our emotions. And it's sextiling Saturn in Pisces, where Saturn, again, is about discipline, and it's in Pisces, which is like the internal part of our faith. There's access to being able to unlock or not have internal resistance to the things that we're doing by being a little bit more emotionally distant, and just by, again, doing the work that's in front of us. Not investing into how we feel about the work, not investing into the results of the work, but just investing in the work itself. And I think as you do that, and you don't really get worked up into whether or not you can or whether or not you can't, and you just do what's laid out in front of you, I think you'll have a lot better results. But that's what Tuesday's for. Tuesday is really good for just saying, you know what? Like, I'm not going to, invest into the success or the failure of this. I'm just going to do the work that's in front of me. And I think that's where a lot of the magic is going to end up happening. And then we get to Wednesday. On Wednesday, Mercury, as it's retrograde, is going to go opposite Jupiter as our first highlight for the day. And then our second highlight is the sun making a square to Saturn. We will then have the moon, while it is in Capricorn, making a trine to Uranus, and then conjoining Venus, then sextiling Neptune, and then the moon will ingress into Aquarius and conjoin Pluto. So here's the deal. Mercury's retrograde, and this Mercury retrograde in Sag opposite Jupiter, like this is kind of the moment. This is the part of the retrograde we need. Mercury went opposite Jupiter once when it was in shadow and moving forward. Now Mercury's retrograde, it's going to hit Jupiter once more, and then once it stations direct and moves forward again, it will hit Jupiter again. So this is our second time. But Mercury's retrograde now. A lot of this is seeing the loopholes and thinking bigger. There is two types of people. There are people that are constantly looking for the excuses and to reasons why they can't. And then there's people that are always looking for the loopholes and figuring out ways that they can, like no matter what it is. And depending on what kind of person you are is going to mean Wednesday is either fucking awesome or not all that good. And it's going to be challenging. You need to be able to, again, think bigger. Where do you actually want to be? Where do you actually want to go? You don't need to rationalize it. You don't need to be like, okay, like, I want, these big things in life, but I don't think that's possible for me. I said this, I think I said this on the game plan too. I know I keep quoting the game plan, but I just go off on the game plan. Like, if you like me going off, you need to watch the game plans. A lot of people would agree that life is miserable, that life and existence itself sucks because you feel pain, because you feel sorrow, because of all these bad things. And what I find interesting is we live in this polar world. We live in this duality. And I am so great. Like, again, if people can just have the worst experiences ever, if life can just be about misery and suffering and pain, that means the opposite is also equally true. For every person you see, and as bad as things are for them, maybe it's you. Maybe you're the one going through bad thing after bad thing. Just know the equal and the opposite of that is also available to you. Just like there is a lot of good in this world, there is a lot of evil in this world. Just like there's a lot of bad and a lot of pain, there's a lot of reward and a lot of pleasure in this world. And this is one of those things that I've heard over and over again, but I'm starting to actually understand it, is like, I'm so grateful for literally the lows and that contrast, because all that does is make me aware of, like, again, when you go to like somewhere like Death Valley, and Death Valley is below sea level, you go, wow, I didn't think anything could be this low below sea level. And then you go to somewhere like, the Himalayas, you go, wow, I didn't realize you could also be that big, that tall. These opposites are always in front of our faces. And when you get to Wednesday and Mercury's opposite Jupiter, you have to kind of understand that, like, there's so much more available to you. And if you want to play small, if you think that only this thing is possible for you, well, guess what? That's exactly what you're going to get. And we have an opportunity. Again, I'm really hounding on this because this is the opportunity. If astrology is a time honoring exercise, you should honor this time and not play small, and really think about why do you like make things like, you try to rationalize why you can only stay right here. It can be so much, but then you go, oh, well, Cameron, you don't understand. You don't understand. I have this reason. It's all fucking excuses at the end of the day. They really are. That was feedback I got when I was on my personal development journey, or I should say when I first started, and I fucking hated it. But the older I get and the more I practice what the fuck I preach, the more I understand how fucking true it is. All of your shit is fucking excuses. At the end of the day, I don't care what the fuck it is. There's people that are so, like, again, there's people that have lost their fucking legs and they're still running marathons. That's insane to me. There's people that have lost their legs and just gave up. And again, can you blame them? I can't. But at the same time, Clearly, that was an excuse because other people in their same circumstance did what they were afraid to do and did what they wanted to do, but they just didn't have the balls to do it. Everything that is stopping you from what you want to do is a fucking excuse. And the second that you actually take that on and you understand that, the easier it gets to actually go where you want to go. Because if you're going to let this thing stop you and this thing stop you, well, then everything's going to stop you and you'll never get there. And it's almost one of those things where I don't even want to go off on this excuse thing because it's like, oh, you have an excuse? Okay, then you're going to stay there. Bye. If you want to have an excuse, we don't got the fucking time to explain to you this concept. Like, either figure it out, or again, if you want all these things, but you say, oh, I've got this excuse. Okay, well, that's your excuse. You're going to stay right there. See you later. We're going to go do our thing, even though we also have challenges. We also have problems, but we're not going to let them be excuses for where we want to go. So do you want to join us, or do you want to sit and be like, well, but my mom, she wasn't really that good when I was a kid, and that's your fucking excuse? Anyway, I say this to say, this Mercury-Jupiter opposition, really think about what parameters of the game that you're playing. And again, it's almost like a video game without cheat codes. Like, there are cheat codes. Like, you may never have thought that cheat codes exist in a video game. You're like, oh, I can only play by the rules that the game sets. No, there's actually, like, if you just, pretty much key smash a bunch of buttons, all these random things can happen. It's such a Mercury-Jupiter concept of like, well, I read the instructions and these are the rules. But it's like, well, actually, if you just don't listen to the rules, you could literally just find a cheat code and break the game. And again, I hate video game and simulation and matrix analogies, but it's so fucking true. So on Wednesday, think outside the box. Try to find loopholes. What are the cheat codes? Make it easy. Make it simple. Make it so stupid simple that it's impossible to fuck it up. Then the sun makes a square to Saturn also on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to this one because in my opinion, this is the real kicker of the transit, or the real transit that's the kicker. The thing I wrote down, and I just want to read it word for word. Willpower will conquer limiting beliefs. Your willpower will conquer limiting beliefs. If you just, especially if you're a Taurus or a Scorpio or an Aquarius or a Leo, for the love of God, turn on that damn stubbornness to 1,000 and say, be so stubborn in what it is that you want to go and where it is that you want that it doesn't matter if you don't believe in that it's possible. Just be stubborn about it. And the reason I say this is the sun is in the superior position to Saturn here. And sun's in Sagittarius. The sun is like, hey, I'm excited. And again, here's the other thing too. The reason I'm on this shit right now is Sagittarius is all about myth. It's all about storytelling. The stories that we tell ourselves are the things that actually dictate our lives. It's true. If you tell yourself the story of, well, I grew up this way and this is how I was treated and this happened to me and this is why this and this and this and this and that and that's why everything sucks, you are literally writing a story about like, here's the shitty things that happened to me and that's why my life is shitty. And there's other people that say, here's the shitty things that happened to me, but I was so hell-bent on the things that I want that I use those as motivation and fuel. You literally have a pen, and the pen is your actions every single day, and that writes down your story, and your story is going to dictate. And the story that you tell yourself every day, the story that you tell yourself about your past relationships, the story that you tell yourself about the way that you were raised, the story that you tell yourself about your body, about your self-image, about, whether or not you feel like you're stupid or whether or not no one's going to fucking listen to you. That story is what's dictating, not actually anything else, but the story that you tell yourself. When are we going to change that story? Like, so far, your book sucks ass. No one's reading your book. I don't even think you want to write the book, like, to be honest. But as the sun squares Saturn, you need to elevate. The sun squaring Saturn is that willpower, that feeling of hope is going to overcome those limiting beliefs. Saturn, and again, I almost hate that term, limiting beliefs. It's such a catch-all for bullshit nowadays. But Saturn is about, again, restrictions, boundaries, discipline. It is cold. And again, it's on that internal part. Like, again, we might be able to say, oh yeah, like, again, everyone wants to start a business, but no one wants to actually do the work to, build a business. Saturn and Pisces is that block on the inside. Sagittarius, it's just easy to say, it's easy to dream up. But that sun squaring Saturn is like, if you just have the willpower, to just get through it, you can overcome that. Whatever it is. Again, it could be like, for example, running. When I quit smoking cigarettes, or I should say quit vaping in 2020, I was running a mile every morning. I fucking hate running. I hate it so much. I was able to run a 4-minute mile. That's insane to me. In high school, I couldn't even get that. I think I got to like 7, and I was running a 4-minute mile. And I just did it. Like, it wasn't like I don't believe. I never even thought about what my beliefs were about it. I just started running. And it was one of those things where, like, I broke through a limiting belief that I had no idea I even had, because I was like, I didn't know I could do that. Like, I was just never thought of it that way. So I say all this to say, your willpower can conquer a lot on Wednesday. And it's going to be helped by Mercury retrograde opposite Jupiter if you just think outside the box, if you just rewrite the story. And then what's also great is the moon is in Capricorn. Be emotionally detached from things. It's going to trine Uranus. Breakthrough opportunity, just a little one. It's all you need is just a little nudge, and that's what happens with the moon trining Uranus. It's going to conjoin Venus again, revenge body stuff, feeling good. Nothing feels better. I don't know the equivalent of this for like girls, but like when you're a man and you wear a suit and it fits you and you look good, there's a level of just like confidence. It's just a different level of energy that you exude. That's the moon conjoining Venus to Capricorn. When you know you look good, when you know it's serious, when you know that you can be respected. That moon conjoining Venus, there's some sort of touch of that. Because again, it's not like, yes, on the background, there's all this Sag, Gemini stuff, but the moon, which is about more so of how we're feeling in the moment, it's about just being respected. It's about looking good. It's about having that sense of self-respect even. And then the moon sextiles Neptune. Don't be afraid to idealize, fantasize, whatever it is. Now, the moon does go into Aquarius and conjoins Pluto. This is like when I keep thinking of, for example, Parker, if you could put up the image of Sam Smith in the heart latex suit. I love this image because what's funny about the suit that Sam Smith is wearing is if you wore that and you were even slightly self-conscious, it would be the most ridiculous and dumbest thing ever. Now, if you wore this out in public and you had such an arrogant, self-centered attitude to it, you would have that shit on. No one would be like, damn, okay, like, why? Like, I don't, like, people, like, it's all really about your energy. And the reason I bring this up is the moon going into Aquarius and conjoining Pluto is when you are trying, for example, if you like, let's say you want to start posting on social media, you're going to feel dumb. You're going to be, again, it's super funny. I get people that are like, oh, I want to start YouTube, or I want to start social media, but I'm afraid of people's comments. No one's watching, by the way. Until you actually get some viewers and then you'll get some negative comments. 90% of my comments on YouTube are so fucking awesome. And again, for whatever reason, I only focus in on the bad ones, but most of the comments are really good. But if you're just starting and you have no followers, good news is no one's really going to comment. So you don't have to worry about that. But we let these imaginary scenarios of what we think everyone else is going to think stop us. And that moon in Aquarius conjoining Pluto is going to be like, okay, you're going to do all this, but, oh, what are other people going to think? Well, what are your parents going to think? Well, what is your spouse going to think? What are your friends going to think? And at what point, to what end are we going to let how other people think about us stop us? And that moon's going to go, again, there's like so much about Wednesday that's like feeling good. And the moon goes into Aquarius and conjoins Pluto where it's like, but what about other people? And that brings us into Thursday. Where on Thursday, the moon is still going to be in Aquarius. It's going to go opposite Jupiter in, it's going to go opposite Mars in Leo. And then after it's opposite Mars and Leo, it's kind of loosely applying to Jupiter in Gemini. It doesn't actually trine Jupiter until Friday morning, like really, really early in the morning. But also on Thursday, we have the Mercury retrograde Cazimi, the halfway point of the Mercury retrograde. Really looking forward to this retrograde or this Cazimi moment. But here's the thing. The moon's going to be in Aquarius and it's going to go opposite Mars and Leo. Again, Mars is about to go retrograde here. We're still not there yet. We're so close. Mars literally stations retrograde the next day. The moon's in Aquarius opposite Mars and Leo. Here's the deal. How this is going to work is you are going to get negative feedback. You just are. I get negative feedback all the time. If you would have just seen, again, I'm so grateful. If you guys know Helena Woods is an astrocartographer. And we were talking the other night and she was telling me about how like she went to like her first astrology meetup and just she was just blown away with how it is there. And I've told people before, like, you know, like I was like, I was really big on Twitter. I was close friends with all the cool people in the astrology community. And then I decided to be myself and pretty much say how I felt about stuff. And then everyone disowned me. That was really hard. I got completely banished from that community for the most part. And it's like, you know, I've tried to apply speaking at Norwalk. I've tried to, they don't give a fuck. Because again, I don't subscribe to the same belief system. And again, I could have said, oh, well, no one likes me, so I'm going to just stop doing astrology. But I didn't. I said, you know what? Fuck all those people. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to again, this is why I'm so grateful for my specific community is like, I've been able to create a community in which I have all types of followers. Like, again, whether it's like, left, right, center, whatever the fuck it is. And I've been able to create a community where people don't feel as if they're like, again, outcasted on terms of just like belief system stuff. Like I try to be supportive to everyone, but everyone here is at least focused on bettering themselves. That's what I love about the community that I've created. But I'm bringing this up to say I was genuinely in the spotlight. I was I lost a lot of friends during that time. And I didn't let that stop me. And that was hard. That wasn't like, oh, like you might think of me. Like that was very, very, I went through a really dark time about that. Like, there's still somewhat of a chip on my shoulder about it too. That's how much it bugged me. But you're going to go through that. The moon going into Aquarius opposite Mars and Leo is you're going to be like, again, remember being a kid and being excited to show your parents something and your parent was like, fuck off. I don't want to hear about it. And you got all disappointed and it crushed your little child's soul. You're going to go through that again. But are you going to let that stop you? Again, how bad do you want it? Is it, I want it bad enough, but then if something gets in my way, I'm going to stop? Because again, how the universe works is you're going to say, you know what? I want to do something. I want to challenge myself. I want to go to that next step. And then you're going to do all these things to go in that direction. And then the universe is going to give you something to deal with. And it's your choice whether or not that thing to deal with is a insurmountable issue that you cannot go through and it is a no, or it's just an obstacle to get around. It blows my mind how many people, they're like, well, Cameron, I've tried to do it before, but then this problem came up. Yeah. You think it's just going to be, what? Like, you think it's just going to be easy? You think you're just going to do the thing that everyone wants to do that's really, really hard, but when you do it, there's not going to be one thing that gets in your way to stop you. What? No, that's the thing. Like, that's the moment where you get the breakthrough where you go, okay, this is a really hard thing that got in my way, and I still figured out a way to get around it. And that's what makes it rewarding. That's the whole, and again, so this moon in Aquarius going opposite Mars is, it's going to be the resistance from other people. It's going to be the opinions of others, and they're going to probably shoot you down. And you need that, though. You need the tomatoes thrown at you. You need to be embarrassed. That's what the Mars retrograde in Leo is for. We're going to talk more about that in a second. What's nice, though, is after the moon goes opposite Mars, the moon's going to start trining Jupiter, where there is a bigger picture. There is a little bit more hope. We have the Mercury retrograde Cazimi. This is the best part about this week, in my opinion, because the retrograde Cazimi is like, number one, we figured out what the problem was. And then number two, we now know what the solution is. Again, what's the problem? Why weren't we dreaming bigger? Why weren't we thinking bigger? Why were we playing so small? And then you're going to be like, oh, actually, it was like, this thing that happened like, 13 or 14 months ago that like just kind of slowed me down for whatever reason. So you'll figure that out. And then you figure out the solution. The solution is like, oh, why am I letting that get in my way? Why am I letting that get in my way? Let me stop that. So Wednesday looks really awesome for just kind of like having some clicks with something. Then we get into Friday, and so much shit happens on Friday. The moon trines Jupiter early, I'm talking like 2 a.m. The moon will then square Uranus throughout the rest of the day. Then our first highlight is Mercury is going to make a square to Saturn as it's retrograde. So Mercury retrograde squaring Saturn. Mars stations retrograde, and then by the late evening, Venus enters Aquarius. So pretty much the moon trining Jupiter is not that big of a deal because most of us are going to be asleep. We're not going to worry about it. But throughout the day, the moon's going to be squaring Uranus. I look at that as on Friday, there's going to be disruptions. There's going to be disruptions in your schedule. There's going to be disruptions in the way that you're thinking. There's just going to be disruptions. For example, if let's say you're really afraid of public speaking and you're going to do your first public speaking on Friday, let's say the fire alarm goes off. Are you going to associate that as like a spiritual thing of like, oh, well, that means I shouldn't be public speaking since I got interrupted? Like, that's the vibe on Friday is there's going to be some disruption. Are you going to be able to roll with the punches? So then, Mercury retrograde squaring Saturn and Pisces. Mercury retrograde squaring Saturn and the Pisces is a lot of it's finding loopholes. It's a lot of it, like, I look at this as like, whatever you've got to do mentally to rewrite your brain chemistry to get where you need to go. Like, I haven't been in the gym in a while. I'm getting back into that, but there was a minute, and I think about this all the time because I need to apply it because it worked, was I didn't want to go to the gym. And I would literally say like out loud in my head, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. As I was getting ready for the gym, as I was putting in my headphones, as I was walking out the door, as I was walking to the gym, I was like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. And then it was like the second I got there and then like I was in the environment and I was like, wait, what's my workout? Like I got out of it and then I was like in the middle of the workout. And then after that workout, I felt so good. But it was just, that was the thing that got me there, which is really, for me, like again, there's sometimes we have to make things really, really complicated on our own in order to do the thing. And that's like Mercury retrograde and Sag squaring Saturn and Pisces. It's like, okay, whatever it is that we have to do, like again, for me, it was, I literally have to just tell myself I don't want to do this and just still physically move my body in that same direction. Like, it's like I win. It's like a win-win for me. I get to be correct in that I don't want to do this, and I get to win as in I still hold up to my word and I still go to the gym. That's the way I look at it. Mercury retrograde squaring Saturn, find the loophole. Figure out whatever you've got to say, whatever you got to do. Whatever weird, it doesn't even have to make sense. Doesn't have to make sense. Just whatever it is that's going to get you to do it. That's all you've got to do. Find a loophole. Then we also have Mars stationing retrograde. This is the big one, okay? Mars stationing retrograde in Leo. I'm going to talk about this. You're watching this in the future. I might have talked. I'm going to talk about this on the election live stream. I've been talking about this election live stream for like so long. I've just been so fucking busy. But what makes me nervous is like there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, Trump's back. Everything's going to win. I'm like, that's very Mars and Leo. And Mars is about to go retrograde to Leo. I don't know if we're having that. That feeling's going to stay here the whole time. But anyway, Mars goes retrograde. You're going to lose some confidence and you need to let it happen. You're going to bomb. You need to let it happen. If you're a guy and you've ever been out and you've tried to hit on a girl and she straight up said, fuck you, or like had a disgusting thing, you've got to let it happen. These are the things that are going to, like, again, shape and morph you. And again, like, you're not just going to let one no stop you. You're not just going to let one thing, one rejection stop you from what you want. Right? Or am I wrong? Because, I mean, maybe I am wrong, and maybe you're going to try to do the thing that you want to do, but you're going to get some slight rejection, and then you're going to give up and crumble in on yourself and tell yourself how dumb you are for even thinking that that was possible and that you can't do anything. You could do that. That just sounds like an absolute waste of whatever, like, and I say that's a waste because you, like, I've said this a lot. I say this in my delineation about living your purpose. People always come to astrology like, what's my purpose in life? Like, I fucking hate that question. What do you mean, what is your purpose in life? You were given, like, you are literally created in the image of God. You have your heart's desires. You have these ideas. You have these passions that no one else on earth will ever have. And there's only you. You will only be the only one that sees it this way, that could do it this way. That is what is inside your heart and your soul. You need to be pushing that out. And your purpose is not up to you. Your purpose is everyone else's interpretation of whatever's going on in your life, right? Like, that's not up for you. Your only job, your purpose is to take what your heart says, the things that God have given you, whether that's talents, your gifts, your abilities, whatever it is, and put it out in the world. That's your only purpose. That is your only purpose. And whatever is getting in the way to do that, that is you not living your purpose. It's not a job. Your purpose is not a job. Like, it's not if I just get this, a certain position to this manager, like, I've been thinking about doing, it's not about that. Because again, a job can be a part of your purpose, but it's not all the time. Like, there's people that their purpose is like, they help kids. And, maybe they just do a sales job on the side, but like, they give to their community and they help, impoverished kids. Like, that's a big part of their purpose. They have this desire. They have this passion for doing that. That is them living their purpose. That's all it is. So I say that to say, as Mars goes retrograde, are you going to let something stop you in terms of, okay, is someone going to get in your way? Are you just going to listen to the first no that you get? Are you going to, again, like, if maybe you're embarrassed, and again, I want you to not feel that confident and still do it anyway. Like, that's the whole thing. So you might lose some confidence. You might get some rejection, but you need to let it happen anyway. You need to get it out of your system. You just need to get it out of your system. Be embarrassed. And again, it just depends on what this is. What house does Mars rule in your chart? And where is it retrograding in your chart? Make those connections. What are you trying to do? And that you're going to lose some confidence on it. I want you to, because you need to absolutely build up a stronger character, a stronger will, a stronger identity. And in order to do that, you got to take some L's first. And then on Friday evening, Venus goes into Aquarius. There's kind of a lot of this that's like both. It's kind of Venus goes into Aquarius where it's like, okay, Venus is fun and connection. So there's like finding your people, finding your tribe. Again, like, you want feedback from other people, right? Like, what worked, what didn't, and you want that supportive feedback from people. And then there's also unsupportive feedback from people. But that brings us to Saturday. And so I just wanted to jump to Saturday because Venus goes into Aquarius really late on Friday, but then it conjoins Pluto on Saturday, where are you afraid of like what other people think and what they want? I would argue, like, are you catering to others in fear? And there's like, again, there's two sides to it. On one end, it's like there could be a supportive group of people on your side, and you need to embrace that. And that might be a little bit scary. Again, they might be very real with you. And again, feedback is often harsh, but always fair. And that might be what you need to listen to. But there might be another end where you just crumble because you're afraid of other people's opinions and other people's thoughts. And you might start catering to what other people think. And you're like, you have to find this balance within yourself. Like, I can't tell you what that balance is of what is yours to do and like doing it your way versus, listening to how other people think you should do it. Like, that's something you've got to figure out yourself. But what is cool is the moon then goes into Pisces on Saturday, and it's going to then just be squaring Mercury. There's a lot of sensitivity here that I think is going on. Like, the moon is in Pisces. It's just a little bit like too much going on. And it's going to start squaring Mercury and Sag, where, for example, I've said this before. I have said this before because the story has impacted my life like nothing else. Was in one of my personal development things, we played this game. Long story short, they teed us up mentally of like, hey, how you play this game is how you play your life. And long story short, there's two teams. We went into separate rooms and we had this board that we drew on, right? And I was the one who brought the board into the room for my team. And as I was up there, everyone was trying to find a team leader. And I was up there. So they were like, Cameron, why don't you be the leader? And you know what I did? I said, all right, everybody, what do you guys think that we should do? And it just turned into fucking chaos. I mean, there's like within 5 minutes, people literally started crying. Like this isn't even like, and trust me, if you knew what this game was and if you did it, you would understand because everyone's just on edge in these like personal development seminars because everything's so fucking deep all the time. But people just started crying and freaking out. And I was literally like a deer in the headlights. I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know how to control the room. And then people were like, Cameron, fuck you. Get the fuck out of there. You're like, you are not the leader anymore. And I was like, whoa. And that just reminds me of the moon in Pisces squaring Mercury, retrograde, and Sag. Like everyone's yelling all these different ideas. No one really agrees. Everyone's really sensitive. So on Saturday, there's got to be this fine balance of like understanding how to listen to people, but also understanding it's not the end all be all. Like sometimes people are going to say, you know what, that dream is too big. You know what, we love you, but I just don't think you can do it. And then they're going to tell you what you should do. And you got to know when to shut that shit fucking down. Like just tell them, like, it's one of those things where it's just like, you can't listen to them. You can't. Sorry, I'm a fucking Leo. And, maybe you got everything in Aquarius, so you just care what other people think. I'm not saying that. I'm just doing, I'm just throwing shit out there. You got to know when to listen to people, know when that feedback is important, but you still got to know when you're the one in charge and what you've got to do. And I think what I like about this is the sun, the next highlight we have on Saturday is the sun goes opposite Jupiter. Willpower can get you out of a lot, but not with shitty beliefs. Like if your willpower is very weak in terms of getting out of your comfort zone and being disciplined, it's not going to work all that well. But if your willpower is really strong in feeding your addictions and rolling back on your word and being comfortable, well, then it's going to be, just like the sun opposing Jupiter. Our willpower is very opposite our belief systems. And the sun is the closest we get, Earth is as close as we get to Jupiter. We get to actually see a little bit clearer, what are these shitty beliefs that we have? And the sun's in Sagittarius. We're writing the story, right? Like our willpower, we're in the middle of our own myth. It's opposite Jupiter, Gemini. It's like, we're not even in the fucking right language. We've just been doing this run-on sentence and this story just sucks. Like we've got to rewrite some of this stuff. And so Saturday is a really interesting examination of everything that's going on. And so then we get to Sunday. And on Sunday, it's just the moon in Pisces conjoining Saturn, and then it's going to square Jupiter. And then the moon will then make a sextile to Uranus and then conjoin Neptune. Sunday is kind of a day of like reflection, in my opinion, of everything that's going on. Moon conjoining Saturn is about getting a little bit more serious, like really looking on the inside and say, okay, I'm sensitive right now. Where are these blocks? Why am I letting these blocks get to me? Can I calm myself down? Can I dissolve these limitations? Can I warp the reality of the game that I'm playing here? Because this is where the work comes in. It's one of those things of like, people are like, I've been told before, like, oh, Cameron, you should be a motivational speaker. I'm like, I don't want to be a motivational speaker. Like, because again, at the end of the day, what I'm really learning is like disciplinary stuff. You got to like, this is where the work comes in, is like the shit that sucks. Like, it's super easy to get excited about stuff, but like, man, when it fucking sucks, even though that's where really the good stuff comes from. Like when you get rejected, when you learn. And so the moon conjoins Saturn and squares Jupiter. There's a little bit of a rejection, heavy feeling, but this is probably where the work comes in a little bit more, where you need to be a little bit more in tune with why things are feeling blocked, why you're feeling rejected, why you're feeling so sensitive. Don't avoid it. Don't run away from it. And as the moon then sextiles Uranus and conjoins Neptune, there's a couple ways to look at this. Number one, I would say, if you want to just be delusional and say, well, here's all my excuses, and of course I couldn't, like, again, write your whole story, right? Again, tell us your sad sob story as to why you can't, and you want to believe that and delude yourself into thinking that's what it is, then you're going to do that. Now, if you don't, this is a really good opportunity to get very real and to, again, still come back into the visualization aspect of things. Like whenever you're not motivated, whenever you're feeling defeated, you need to be in that visual state of mind of like, whatever it is that you want, visualize it and then bring that feeling to your body, because that feeling to your body is going to excite you. It's going to change your attitude. It's going to change your mood. Same thing too with just taking some sort of action, whatever you can do to change your mood and to change. And again, typically has something to do with your body. So changing the feeling in your body, then change your emotions. That's what you've got to do. And that's Sunday. Next week, Venus goes opposite Mars. It's my favorite part about Mars retrogrades is the Venus-Mars opposition. We have Mercury making a sextile to Venus. We have the full moon in Gemini, and then Mercury stations direct next week as well. Next week, like, again, we have to go through these 2 weeks. And then next week, it's like, again, a little bit more mental clarity, a little bit more of understanding how we do this. But then, again, we are already dick deep into 2025, in my opinion, and this is how a lot of the next 2 months look. So with that being said, I love and appreciate you guys. I'll be seeing you next week.